Welcome to Podlomania Podcast, your photography and video podcast where we introduce you to some of the most amazing creatives from around the world. I'm your host, Wayne Johns, and I'm here, as always, with my good friend, buddy, and co-host, Jake Hicks, who's looking primed now after some technical problems. The sweat is dripping off his brow. We're back with a vengeance, aren't we, mate?
The joys of working from home. Yeah.
Most people turn off and restart. Jake's changed rooms. He's hugging a router now. You know,
literally just put the router on my lap.
Stroking that Wi-Fi signal. Well, that sounds a bit wrong, actually, doesn't it?
Hey, whatever it takes at this point, whatever it takes.
True, mate. I thought you only saved things like that for the weekends, but there we go. We've just let it out to the masses. So, man, I know we've said this once before, but hey, what have you been up to, mate?
The magic of editing. I've been good, man. I've been good. Yeah. Well, trying to be, working from home, locked in like everybody else. It's not too much fun. Definitely looking forward to shooting again. But yeah, I've just been doing some online stuff, doing some workshops online with people from around the world. It's been fun. Doing some mentoring, one-to-one mentoring with them and that sort of thing. And just keep myself busy, really. But yeah, can't wait to get back out and start shooting proper though. Jeez.
Oh yeah, I'm with you there.
I'm missing it.
Yeah, I'm with you there. We're definitely missing being behind a camera, aren't we? For sure. And with restrictions in place at the moment, if those of you, especially in the UK, the rules at the moment are during this podcast release is that yes, you are allowed to go to work, obviously under COVID rules and regulations. And for those photographers out there wanting to build portfolios that are doing just, getting together for creative purposes, you really shouldn't be doing that. It is for paid work only, not for creative get-togethers for fun. So please, guys, don't put other people at risk. This situation is still killing a lot of people unnecessarily. And the safer we all stay, the better it will be for everybody. So just keep safe, yeah? But before we get into the show, I just want to remind everybody that you can subscribe to Podlomania at podlomania.com/subscribe. You can find us on most podcast players around the world. And don't forget, we've very kindly put a link up on our website that if you feel that we deserve a cup of coffee and you want to donate anything towards that, then you can go over to our donation page and just hit buy us a coffee or drop a donation via PayPal. And that will help us keep the lights on here at Podlomania Towers, as Jake called it earlier. But no, we appreciate anything anybody can do, especially during these times, because obviously, it's this is not fun. This is funded by ourselves. So we like to keep the lights on and keep it running to bring you all these beautiful guests. But yeah, I'm with you, Jake. Getting to shooting, man. It's as you know, I've even bought some, more film for my film cameras to go out and get a bit creative. But obviously only during my, allowed walks that I'm allowed to go on for my health benefits.
Oh, yeah. Of course.
That I was going to take my camera and perhaps shoot something, a bit different scenery-wise, which I don't normally shoot, that doesn't involve people, which is completely different for me. So I've currently got a roll of Fujifilm Acros black and white in my RZ67. And I did buy some lovely Kodak Portra 160 and 400 to throw some of that lovely color through there as well. And I've shot absolutely zero because obviously I've been ill over the Christmas and New Year quite badly. COVID-free, I'll be glad to say. But yeah, it's actually knocked the wind out of me and I'm still in recovery at the moment. So I've been quite poorly with that, with chest and lung infections. So yeah, that paid all of that. That's a happy note, isn't it, for the show?
Yeah.
Right. But, I look forward to using it when I can. That's the main thing. Oh, happy times. Well, I'm glad we're moving on to a happy episode with this guest. That's for sure. Because, for anyone else listening, I think we just made it sound miserable already, haven't we?
We'll get there, man. We'll get there.
We'll get there.
We're just, only up from here.
I know. And looking at, I guess, now with that big beaming smile that nobody else can see but us, we'll feel privileged and we already know this is going to be a great episode. Should we dive into it then, my friend?
Let's do it.
Okay. Well, folks, welcome to episode 40. And in this episode, we're going to talk with the lovely John Dolan, a photographer with a career that has covered decades in the advertising, editorial, and fine art world, but has also seen him listed in the top 45 of Harper's Bazaar's top wedding photographers list. That's an achievement in itself. Wow.
Isn't it?
Alongside that, he's had the pleasure of photographing many beautiful celebrity clients as well, including Will Smith, Ben Stiller, Kate Bosworth, Bridget Moynahan, and most recently, Gwyneth Paltrow. A calm and endearing man with a passion to capture those special moments in time for those to treasure forever. John, welcome to the show.
It's good to be here, guys. You guys are serious problem solvers. you're magicians.
Yeah.
Wayne also does answer and receive messages as well if you need that.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
And
it's a very reasonable cost, actually.
Give me 35 minutes. My voice will go a bit huskier with a bit of a rasp. I can do special 0898 numbers as well.
Nice. I was going to say, it's getting very raspy.
It gets better. I hope you got a towel to mop your brow in a minute. It's going to get hot. No, John, it's a pleasure to have you on here. I mean,
yeah, welcome.
It's lovely to have you on the show, and we're never going to cover obviously your lifespan of your career in the short time we've got with you, but we'll do our best to dive in and get some good stuff out of you and let you tell us all the good stuff in your life that's been going on, and share that with our audience. It's going to be great.
Happy to chat.
Good man. John, for our audience, how would you describe yourself and what you do?
Well, I am. I've done one thing my whole life. Photography is the only job I've ever had. Started when I was 15, and I am a photographer of people. I shoot people as they are, and I'm not a director. I'm a collector. And to go back a little bit, I've been a collector my whole life. And one of those funny little things I realized as an adult that I've been collecting things since I was a small child. And photography is basically another way of collecting. It's collecting moments. It's collecting time. It's preserving things. But so I collect people, and I put them into two dimensions.
Well, that's a deep answer.
That's deep.
We're stunned.
Wow,
We're stunned already. I think that's the first one we've both had to take a breath and raise our eyebrows.
It's just processing.
Maybe that doesn't make any sense at all, but
no.
It is funny because as a kid, I would collect baseball cards, I'd collect stamps, coins, newspapers, and I've spent this winter kind of organizing archives and that sort of thing. And I've started to realize that it's all the same thing. It's as a photographer, you have this camera that can sort of carve out slivers of time on a piece of film. And the power of the pictures often comes out later in life. And that's one of the things I've learned with weddings, that you take pictures on people's wedding day, and the real power of it is sometimes 15 or 20 years down the road.
Absolutely, yeah. Couldn't agree more. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and looking at your wedding work there the other night, I mean, it's pretty unapologetically raw, right? I mean, it's as if Robert Capa did weddings. That's sort of like in the trenches, as it were, getting stuff as it's unfolding. It's certainly very visceral in that regards. But I mean, as a result, I see many images in your portfolio that some other shooters may discard as being blurred or out of focus and that sort of thing. Like, what is it that speaks to you about some of the shots that you actually keep?
It almost gets down to, does that picture bring me back to that moment? So I'm not interested in what something looked like. I'm interested in what it felt like. And that subtle difference is everything to me. I could take a perfect picture of a bride and groom standing in front of the church, and it would make me feel nothing. But if I am in the zone, if I am rolling with what those people are feeling, and then I make the photograph, when they look at that picture 20 years later, they're going to feel themselves coming out of that church with that moment inside them. So what I do is definitely a high wire act. It's definitely it is more raw. It's a high wire act in the sense that I don't know what I'm going to get at each wedding, but I've done this long enough. I did editorial work that trained me how to tell stories. I've worked out this sort of thing. So if I don't go for the high wire version, if I play it really safe, the pictures can be incredibly boring. But if I really aim high, I get these pictures that are unexpected, that I didn't plan for, and my clients didn't plan for them either.
Yeah, nice way of putting it. It's and you're like you say, you're just capturing all those memories that they can look back on and feel like they're in the same place, even though it's a decade or so later, isn't it? I think it's just a beautiful way of describing that portion of it.
Well,
it's definitely an emotional thing.
Yeah, I think that I'm really constantly surprised that wedding pictures are so safe, because and a lot of photographers are worried about disappointing their clients. But since I started before wedding photography was really a thing, I was free of all those preconceptions of what a great wedding picture was. So I was just a magazine guy doing some friends' weddings, and it was I wasn't caught up in all the traps of what you're supposed to do at a wedding. So there was a certain freedom in that. So I was just a photographer at a wedding.
Yeah. No.
When did you start doing weddings then? Sorry.
Okay.
Well, I started doing weddings in the late 80s.
Okay.
My brother asked me to be his best man. My other brother was the priest. My father was in the hospital with eye surgery. So I brought a Leica in my pocket, in my tux. And my brother got married in New Jersey. He married a Hungarian woman. It was a very sort of traditional Hungarian wedding with lots of interesting traditions and things. And they had a formal photographer, but me being the best man, I was just taking pictures almost behind the scenes.
Right.
And the pictures that I took on that day, maybe 5 rolls of film, 35 millimeter, were so raw and so honest compared to the formal pictures the other guy was taking. And I was being the best man. I was a terrible best man, literally the worst 2-minute speech ever, stumbling. But I was witnessing my brother go through something quite intense. And I also realized on that day that he was completely, he couldn't see the camera. I was absolutely free to shoot, and he was unaware of, he was completely unaware of the camera.
Nice.
And there was a freedom in that I had, there was a great freedom in that as a photographer, just to have people not be aware of you.
Nice. Did you get the bug for weddings then, or was it just like something that you had to do for your brother, and then like years later it kicked off? Or?
Oh no, that was my light bulb moment. It was extraordinary.
Well, yeah, okay, it was.
Yeah. Okay. It was extraordinary because I realized that weddings fit at the center of everything that I do, documenting families, documenting people in love. I also love photographing nervous people because they can't see you again. They're unselfconscious, and so it's once I had that light bulb moment, and I looked around and nobody was shooting weddings. It was the lowest form of photography for serious photographers.
Okay.
So in the late 80s, it was just not a cool thing among the people that I knew in New York. Yeah. And I kind of liked having that all to myself.
Ah, yeah. Nice niche. Yeah, well spotted. True. Yeah, light bulb moment. You can't pass that up, can you, when it's that obvious in that day? Yeah. Man. So, I mean, we see you've woven a career in advertising, editorial, and fine art photography. And also, if you want to put that title on it, it's been on contemporary weddings with many celebrities. Now, that's such a nice mix of creativity going through all those different genres. Now, is there one that you prefer most? And are you still shooting a mixture of work like that, or predominantly easing off the commercial and concentrating on the wedding side?
I really loved that variety. I thought it was a healthy mix of genres, and each one sort of informed the other. So the editorial shoots trained you to tell stories. The advertising shoots trained you to work with a big crew, and the weddings threw everything at you, sort of like photographic boot camp. They trained you to deal with uncertainty and unpredictability.
Yeah.
But then I would see how the weddings would affect my ad work or affect my editorial work. So it was a really beautiful symbiosis. These days, I'm shooting more some nonprofit stuff and some more personal projects as the editorial has faded away. But I still, it's all, I'm pretty much only shooting real people in circumstances, and whether it's a kind of reinventing the corporate portrait or shooting a nonprofit, it's all storytelling with people.
Nice. Now, I know you said sort of, which goes hand in hand. Your editorial, helps a photographer tell stories. You learn how to tell stories with that, and that in turn has helped your wedding photography tell those stories in that raw format. Has that flip reversed for you? Have you? Because you said it was a nice cycle where they all work together. Have you shot anything in your raw approach to wedding photography that's actually flip reversed and helped you in the editorial side?
The fact that at a wedding, weddings move so quickly, and you have to make decisions so quickly that it's almost like it trained all my muscles, so that if I'm on an editorial job now and I need to find light quickly, I need to find beautiful light to do a portrait, the weddings have trained me to see that beautiful open shade, or to commit to something quite quickly. When you have a mother of the bride who's looking at you like you don't know what you're doing, and she wants you to get that shot of her with her ex-husband, or just the variety in the current American family setup has trained me to really to read people, to read their emotions, to read their tensions. So it's you learn human nature, you learn human frailty. I think there's a lot at weddings that certainly 25 years ago, 30 years ago, I didn't know there was such a depth to it. And and I really feel like I've benefited a huge amount from just all those interactions.
And looking at your work myself, I shoot in the studio pretty much 100% of the time, and I looking at the sort of shots that you take, I would say I just simply can't do what you do. I just don't see the shots that I think that you see. Do you have a process on the wedding day? Like, are you always just planning to build to a potential shot? Like, are you like planning and getting in the right place and position and that sort of stuff, or are you just shooting anything and everything?
There's no planning involved, Jake. That's the secret of it. It's this is what I've come to after all these years, that the less planning I do, the better. And I have this new ritual the last 5 years where I have all my cameras ready, I have my suit ready, and then I just lie down for 10 minutes and take a kind of low-level nap. And what I'm doing is just emptying myself for what's about to happen. And, if I have a high-pressure wedding, like Gwyneth Paltrow or something like that, that process of emptying myself, it gives space to me to just say, what's coming down the road? What's going to happen today? And it's almost like I put my sensors on high alert. I'm walking into a wedding with this attitude of what's happening. What are the little things happening in the air that I need to it's like bottling a sense, or what's the right metaphor? I'm trying to capture a butterfly or something. But I think also on a wedding day, people's senses are on such high alert that if they feel your presence as a overbearing director trying to control their wedding, they'll react to that. But if I walk into a room very kind of open and, dare I say, loving, that I think people absorb that and they let me in. So it's a whole set of soft skills that's quite interesting. But at the center of it all is trust. So, if I'm walking into somebody's house on their wedding day, I need them to trust me, and it's a privileged position. So it's quite interesting and intimate.
So you're almost in a way, then you're almost becoming, as well as photographer, you're almost becoming one of their guests to be able to feel like a guest to everyone else, so that
exactly
that openness and welcomeness brings you in on their level, and they're all more relaxed for you. Is that what you're kind of saying?
Yeah, and I definitely noticed that from the few weddings I went to when I was just starting out, and seeing these guys with these huge tripods and these RZ67s, and and they would have the tripod and the flash, and they would stop. I just remember this guy stopping my mother, who walked with a cane, as she's coming down the aisle.
Right.
And he's like, "Oh, can my assistant take away your cane?"
What?
Because we want to get a shot with that. You just
Really?
standing. Yeah.
Did your mother turn around and go, "Can I shove it up your..."
Seriously. But it was one of those moments I just thought, this is something I would never do.
Yeah.
Why is it was that preconception of the photographer who wanted to get that shot that he'd gotten last weekend.
Yeah.
So I think, whenever you're repeating yourself that you have to get your shot, it's always a kind of a mistake. And so I've learned from other people.
No, that's fair. I think, and it might be similar to you here, Jake. I think my mindset when you mention the word wedding photographer, I've seen some great wedding photographers, if you want to call it a contemporary style or free or elusive or fly on the wall type. There's amazing ones out there. Even Kev Mullins, who's another Fuji ambassador, and his work is amazing storytelling, like yourself, John. And because I'm not used to shooting weddings, when I think of weddings, my mindset is probably still that archaic format, which scares me to death, in all honesty. How about you, Jake? Have you ever shot a wedding, Jake?
Yeah, back in the day, yeah. Shot a few on film back then. Yeah, we're going back 20 years now. But,
and how did it feel?
It doesn't spark anything in me. Yeah,
no.
I just it doesn't do anything for me personally. But then I'm more of a control freak in the studio, so that's what ticks my boxes. But so having like a crowd, a herd of just people running around is drives me to insanity.
The way you shoot it, John, sounds beautiful. And if I was ever to shoot weddings, it would definitely have to be free and creative, like you're saying. But for me,
I'm the opposite of you guys. That if I walk into a blank studio, I'm just, I started sweating. What's going to happen? I need some outside forces. I need something to let's open the windows.
I can understand it, especially when you're using, strobe or flashlighting, and, people aren't used to that or don't have that experience. It frightens people to death. But it's all, that's a different process, learning to light, isn't it? But go back to your wedding. I haven't shot a wedding, and I have to say, for me, I don't fancy it. It scares me to death.
The faint of heart.
Yeah, going back to the sort of probably the archaic thought process I've got in my mind is the thing that sort of always jumps out at me is that I have no offense to any people having weddings out there, but I have no interest in photographing so many people that don't want to listen to one person, which would be me. Everyone's trying to ignore you, run away from you, not be photographed, hiding behind other people. I'd be sweating buckets.
That's interesting because I find it the inverse of that, where people are coming up. People are always coming towards me, wanting to be photographed. It's for me, it's ducks in a pond. It's like everybody's looking good, feeling good.
Uh-huh.
I think I don't say a whole lot, although I'll chat with people, but I'm not. I'm slowly gaining their trust and working my way into the crowd. And then by the reception, by the dance party, we're all connected. We've all experienced something together. So it's a whole different thing. And it takes a kind of, you have to ease into the relationship. And I find certain people throughout the night who are my allies. The bridesmaids I've made connections with earlier in the day. And they'll just grab their guys and say, "Oh, this is John. He's cool." Everybody come together. But it is very interesting, the preconception of being a wedding photographer and the reality. And I think I think it suits my personality as kind of a quiet guy, and I'm not. Occasionally I will have to get all 200 people together for a group photo, but I always find that loud bridesmaid who's kind of the bossy one. I'll say, "Come here and give me a hand and stand on this car and get everybody together."
Like having an unpaid assistant, isn't it, John?
Absolutely. But it's also interesting. I kind of study the history of wedding photography. And like, if you guys think back at your grandparents' wedding pictures, or even your parents, I don't know how old you all are, but if people look back on that stuff, those guys in the 40s, the 50s, even to the early 60s were master craftsmen, and they were historians in a lot of ways. So I've always taken that quite seriously, that that the pictures I'm making are going to be found by somebody in 50 years. They're going to say something about this era.
Oh, okay.
If you look back at the 70s and 80s, there were some bad wedding photographs made.
Yeah,
For sure.
It was a dark time. But, that was kind of my in was I knew the pictures were so just kind of mediocre and stiff in the 80s. So I wanted to work against that.
Okay.
And I've been reading a little bit about the independent film movement with Steven Soderbergh and Quentin Tarantino in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And they did that same thing, kind of pushing against the studio system.
Oh, okay.
And the indie film, Sundance indie film movement came out of that. So it's a similar sort of thing.
Yeah, I think maybe I need to update my thought process of it and my opinions of it. Then it's maybe I'm outdated in my thought process.
No, you're not.
But I mean,
wait, no, I can't believe it. Outrageous.
The early adopter is outdated. But I mean, to say, John, you've recently been named as one of the top 45 wedding photographers in the world by Harper's Bazaar's top wedding photographer list. How did that feel? And did it have any positive impact on your business?
Those lists are tricky because it's like high school and who's the favorites, who's friends with who and all. But it's but it also I think this year they made a new section called Perfectly Imperfect or something like that, because they split up the photographers in different groupings, and that indicates this thing that I've been working on for a few years, to just introduce this idea that the imperfect pictures are often more honest than the staged or the composed one, the perfectly composed pictures. If I go to a wedding and when I'm doing my edit, there's often the perfectly staged sharp shot, and then next to it there's another image that's just a little bit looser and more organic, more dynamic, and that other picture is the one that sparks something. And so that's why I started that hashtag, the imperfect. But it's interesting that Harper's picked up on that and made a section out of that.
Yeah, it's nice.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah. Wow.
I'm trying to, I'm basically trying to give other photographers permission to not be so locked in and so stressed. And there's a lot of anxiety around being a photographer. A lot of, at core, we are pleasers. We're trying to please the client. But it's occurred to me for a long time that if I please myself, then the client's going to be happy. If I have high standards for my own work. So if I really go for it and make something extraordinary, the client's going to be happy.
Agreed. Yeah. And just touching on this, I know you've sort of already mentioned it a couple of times already, but I mean, many years ago, I spent a lot of time as a family portrait shooter working in a studio, granted, but what always struck me when it came to selling the value of that portrait to that, usually the mum, was trying to instill the value of that image in many years to come. Like, how do you see your role in this timeline? As I know that you've been back to the same location with the same people, sometimes decades apart. Like, how do you see yourself in that?
Well, one of my clients is Jerry Seinfeld and his family, and I've photographed their kids for, I think, 17 years now. And the process for that is that I would go to their house out in the Hamptons, go for an hour by myself with a few cameras, usually at late in the afternoon when the kids were kind of relaxed and chilled out, and just shoot the family as they were. And the body of work of that has grown into this whole document of these kids' childhood in little 1 hour snippets. It's really interesting that the power, it's almost like we're planting the seed, and then, 20 years later, you look back on those pictures when the kids were crawling in their diapers and stuff, and they have this special power. It's like you can see the child, you can see the adult in the child if you look closely.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Okay.
So, it's all a little bit antithetical to Instagram and to this, what did you do yesterday? What are you doing today? It's really trying to capture something that's disappearing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what photography does best. I have 3 kids of my own, and I know my kids are in their 20s, and I know those pictures that I discover that were kind of in a box somewhere from when they were 6 months old have a special power to them.
Oh, yeah. Hell. Yeah. I know what you mean.
Do you think there's extra value in you being the same shooter at each point? Like, do you think it would have the same value if there was like 3 or 4 different photographers along that timeline?
No, and the relationship grows with the clients and even with the kids. There was one year where one of the kids said, I think she was probably 12 or 13. She's like, "Oh, can you shoot color this year? We're tired of the black and white."
Wow.
Started art directing.
You got to,
Switched on, kid.
Respect, total respect. And then they started, when I think in their teens, they started referencing other photographs. They said, "Oh, can you do that jumping on the bed shot again?"
Oh, interesting.
So,
interesting.
rephotographing things.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh.
Kids are coming up to it. So that must have been disappointing for you then when you've got all your cameras loaded with black and white film. It's like, oh, crap. So apart from the word contemporary, would you say your work carries a particular style? Because I know when you shoot weddings, you actually use different cameras to help get you different kinds of images, don't you?
I do. I'm not a single camera person. I usually bring, 5 or 6 different cameras, and I change cameras rather than changing lenses. Although I do change lenses every once in a while, but I've never locked into one word except really that phrase of a photographer at a wedding. Or I had an agent a few years ago who would describe me commercially as saying that I take beautiful pictures of real people and real pictures of beautiful people, which just means that, a little bit unplugged versions of the models. And I think my camera is quite kind to people. I'm not an edgy photographer. I'm not trying to sell anybody on something. I'm trying to capture something that's inside people that, that feels like who they are. The best direction I ever got from an art director or photo editor was one of my first jobs from a German magazine. The editor said, "Go to this event and take pictures of what it felt like, not what it looked like." And it was just such the perfect direction for me.
Yeah.
I was actually going to photograph this event called the Cowboy Poetry Gathering out in Nevada.
So, that's actually one of my questions later on.
Yeah, it is.
Hilarious. Okay.
Sorry to jump ahead, but it was really the greatest first job anyone could ever have. But I kept having that phrase running through my head. What does it feel like to be in this dark bar with these cowboys and this country western music? If I had taken a sharp picture of that, it would have been just boring. So
yeah,
it's bizarre.
I mean, seeing as we're on that subject, we can skip to that question and then come back. But I mean, that was back in the late 80s, right?
yes.
Yeah, and it was called Cowboy Poetry Festival?
Yeah, look it up. I think it's usually this time of year. It's the midwinter, late January, in this little town in Nevada that is basically whorehouses, casinos, and cowboy poets once a year.
Wow, okay.
And they all come together from all over the world. And
Really?
it's extraordinary to see 2,000 people in an auditorium listening to a cowboy tell a story. And they had little kids, they had ranch moms, they had people from South America. And it was just such colorful people and great poetry and great music. And they also have these after hours sessions in the bars, just people jamming on, banjos and fiddles and stuff.
Mental.
So this quote of "shoot what it feels like, not what it looks like." How did you? And obviously, it's resonated with you for many decades. But how did you interpret that? Did you change the way that you did something, or were you trying to change the way that you delivered something, as it were? Like shoot what it feels like. I mean, that's impossible to a certain extent.
I think this photo editor was she was taking what she'd seen in my wedding work, and she said, "Do that same thing." I don't think I even recognized that that's what I was doing at the time with weddings, but there's an emotional quality to it. It's like,
I mean, it's a great piece of advice, great quote as well. Shoot what it feels like, not what it looks like. I absolutely love that. Yeah, I think that's brilliant.
Well, it makes you relax. It makes you be part of the party, part of the gathering. Mm-hmm. It makes you embrace whatever's there, as opposed to trying to push your agenda on something. You take what you feel when you walk into the room.
Yeah, I like it. So
okay.
That'll be coming on a Podlemania podcast T-shirt, folks. Just to let you know. we'll get John to sign them off.
It's brilliant.
So what sort of cameras are you using in your wedding work, John, to give you different results? Because you say you carry several cameras, but they're not all the same cameras with different lenses, are they? Are actually different types of camera?
So my kit has always been a grab bag of cameras. So the main one is the Rolleiflex. I have 4 or 5 of them I've collected over the years, and I find one that just it's got the nice action to it. And I challenge anyone. I think I'm the fastest Rolleiflex loader in the world. I'm ready to do some live
not just the West, but in the world.
In the world.
I don't know. I've heard that the Thai Rolly team is really excellent, but we'll see.
Maybe we should film you doing one of those, John, and we can post that video as the intro to the show.
Right on. So Rolleiflex, Leica. I have Leica M6, but I also have the Leica M10, which I really adore. It's great in low light, and it takes my old lenses. It's just a lovely piece of equipment. Occasionally, I'll bring the old Fuji 645.
Nice.
Those are kind of fun. And I use some toy cameras. I use Diana's and Holga's and these medium format toy cameras that are just delightful.
Nice creativity. I like it.
And your comment earlier on about you switch cameras rather than lenses, like you've got 6 or 7 cameras with you or something.
Well, that goes back to one time when I was shooting a cocktail hour, and the waitress went by with some hors d'oeuvres, and I was changing lenses, and somewhere along the way I got a little olive oil, and it ended up on the back of my lens. So all the film from that day.
What the hell? What sort of party are you at? What the?
I think it was a little bruschetta, and I'm changing the 28, a little drip on.
Sneak one of those in.
Yeah, so
bruschetta, of course it was. Yeah.
And that opened a whole world of creativity for you. Smearing olive oil on the back of your lenses.
It was a disaster.
Note to self: must eat when shooting.
That's one of the skills we've learned. You always you camp out right near the entrance to where the waitresses are coming out with
Coming
the
in
food,
and out.
and you get the first dibs.
My kind of
Nice,
guy. My
nice,
kind of
yeah.
guy.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
Small skills in life.
Yeah. So coming back to these weddings, then obviously you've shot a lot of celebrity weddings, would be putting it mildly. I mean, Will Smith, Gwyneth Paltrow. I mean, just the very notion of that, I think, would terrify 99% of us. But what are the biggest differences when tackling a more high profile job like that over another wedding? Is it exactly the same, or are you doing and approaching something in a different way?
I think that the celebrities who hire me are looking for me to shoot it in this particular way, and they're not looking for the glamour shots. I think one of the things I've learned about celebrities is that they have paparazzi pictures, they have press pictures or promo pictures, and they don't have that many real beautiful photographs of themselves. And it's I think it gets to that core trust thing that they trust me to capture their weddings as honestly as possible and not make it a big production. I think they have those big production pictures. So I've had really wonderful people find me and say, "We want you to do your thing." And a good number of the pictures for these people are locked away and no one will ever see them. They're private stash sort of stuff. And I sort of love that about that it's not, these pictures are not splashed across the pages of the magazines. These are locked in their box in their house or they're a private label sort of thing. Celebrities have that. They have enough of the other pictures, and it's really lovely when people find me and trust me and ask me to do my thing.
On that note, then, are you shooting for, like, do these images go in hello and that sort of stuff, or is it like most of your celebrity work never gets seen?
Each wedding is different. Sometimes they let out a certain number of pictures. I know that Goop, Gwyneth Paltrow's company, published a certain number, and then the rest are just hers. So it's, I shot a little bit for that, but very little. That wedding was so low profile and low key and just friends. It was kind of a precursor to last year's smaller weddings. Mm-hmm. Her wedding was quite small. It was like a big dinner party.
Beautiful shots, by the way, John. Beautiful shots.
Yeah,
nice. Very, like you say, real shots of real people. It was lovely to see.
Yeah, it's certainly one of those moments where when she's walking down the aisle, I'm walking backwards, and next to me is Steven Spielberg with a movie camera making a home movie for her, and I'm just thinking to myself, like, Dolan, you were a bad student in high school, but you somehow got here. So it's, but I do love going to those weddings by myself and seeing what I can do. Just, a man with a bag of cameras and not making a big production about it. Because I think people appreciate that when you're making a big footprint.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's what they're hiring you for. They're hiring you for John's photos. They're not hiring you for John's photographs, but sharp.
Exactly.
That's it. So in your commission work, that you're shooting things like are you shooting things like celebrity portraits? And if so, are they pretty much all location based? And how do those commissions come about for you?
I don't really do that much celebrity portraits.
Okay.
It's, sometimes I've done some of the family things for people, but it's, the celebrity stuff is a small part of what I do, but it's every few years I get a phone call from somebody.
Nice.
And it's really quite remarkable because it's not, I think I also kind of I think I want to put out the message that you can stay small as a photographer, as a business, and be successful. I think a lot of photographers think they need to grow their business and get a studio and get a massive crew underneath them. And one of my lessons of 30 years is that I've stayed lean. I have a studio manager. You should have her on your show. She's a stand-up comedian. She is
cool.
out of her mind.
We'll take her. Booked already, John.
We've actually been playing with this idea of having a podcast whenever I want to end my career. That she and I would have.
Wow, John, that cuts deep, man.
No.
Wow, she's just
But
like,
you haven't
wow,
met her.
we're only halfway. I mean,
You have not met this woman. She would take my whole reputation down in a second.
oh, I see, right. Yeah.
You'd love her.
Oh dear.
Anyway, the staying small. I think there's it's that skill of knowing what you do well and doing it well, and not trying to please everybody. That's kind of my lesson after 30 years.
Yeah, good advice. Yeah, there's plenty of people out there trying to please everybody they come across for all the wrong reasons, I think, rather than focusing on what they're good at and what they should be concentrating on. Yeah, good words. Well, folks, we've reached the midway point where we now have the joy and fun of diving into our rapid fire, not so rapid fire round. We've kind of warned John about it a little bit. He's looking a little bit unsure. I don't think he's about to leave, so we'll get these in quick before he drops the mic. Okay, John, are you ready for your rapid fire, not so rapid fire round? 10 questions that may be related to photography rather, or they may be completely unrelated to photography.
Do I win a prize?
Survival.
Sure.
Yeah, sure. T-shirt with a phrase on. She what it feels like, not what it looks like. Okay, folks, here we go. First one up. Jay, you start today, man.
Yeah. Most images you've ever shot at a wedding?
How many? Maybe 4,000.
What? That was not what I was expecting from you. I thought you were going to say 40 or something.
Yeah, I think there was
hilarious.
one.
What?
Yeah, I did a 3-day event. Maybe it might have been four events, and it added up.
Okay.
There. Yeah.
Wow.
It was insane.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And it was that mixture of film and digital.
Yes.
Holy shit. Okay, you're at a celebrity wedding and your camera dies. What do you do?
The Rolleiflex is surprisingly easy to fix with a screwdriver.
In this occasion, it's well broken, unfixable.
I'd love to see that.
Yeah, I mean, I go into the bag and I bring out something else, but it's amazing the number of times something's broken. I think there's like a bridal power that the bride sucks all the energy and kills batteries as she's walking down the aisle. I've seen so many things go wrong.
Wow.
It's
I should have locked that question down a bit more, didn't I? And said, none of your cameras work. What are you going to do? Damn, I didn't think that one through.
He's got 8 cameras as backup.
Yeah.
So
8 backups and 6 around his neck. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in reverse of the previous image, what's the fewest images you've ever shot at a wedding?
Yeah, maybe 12 rolls of film at a small wedding.
We're talking medium format film?
Medium format, yeah.
Okay.
I have brought 8x10 to weddings lately.
I saw that.
And it's just incredible. People freak out when they see it. And it's kind of fun to see how quickly I can shoot an 8x10 shot. And I've gotten pretty quick at it. So, the sort of same thing of trying to keep it loose and keep it real, but on 8x10 film is insane.
Wow. Do you ever get people at those weddings come up and ask to look at the back of your camera?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I say, what do you do? Are you a surgeon? Do you ever have people coming into your surgery and saying, how's it going there? It's the patient.
Wow.
Can we look at the image on the back of your camera? 10x8 film. Yeah, brilliant.
Or they say, have you gotten any good, are you getting some good stuff? Like, well, I hope so.
You know as much as I do.
Yeah.
I'll tell you in 6 weeks.
Did you get a request for that 8x10? Did I see somebody was it a film?
No, I was driving as opposed to flying to a wedding, and my wife just recommended I put it in the car because she loves when I use it. And that was a wedding out near Pittsburgh, and the light was so stunning. And I even set up the camera before the bride walked down this long aisle. I'd set the camera up at the back, And as she was coming around the corner, about to walk down the aisle, I just pushed the button. I kind of pre-focused. And that was one of the highest wire things I've ever done. Shoot a picture of the bride walking down the aisle on 8x10.
8x10. Yeah.
And on that question, before we move on to the next one, just so perhaps our non-analog folk may not understand, you said you shot 10 rolls of film at a wedding, your minimum. How many shots is that, just so our audience can know who may not be familiar with analog?
That's 12 shots per roll. So
120 shots. 120 shots for a wedding. There you go. Have you ever had any strange shot requests during a wedding shoot?
Good question.
Early on, I had a guy come up to me and say, "Hey, buddy, take a picture of me and my girlfriend." And then he handed me his business card. He said, "Don't send it to the home address. Send it to my office." And he gave me $10. He's like, "Here you go, pal."
No.
Man, I so hope he had that accent. That's gold.
Brilliant.
Brilliant. So, wedding day, one camera, one lens. What would they be? I know that is criminal for you, but one camera, one lens.
The Rolleiflex can handle.
Okay.
Yeah. Except the Rolleiflex goes to bed at dark, so it would have to be a daytime wedding.
And what lens?
It's a 2.8, 80.
Okay. 80 mil. Okay.
80 mil. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Favorite hobby, non-photography related.
Oh my Lord!
It's got so many. Which one do I choose?
Or it could be the opposite.
Yeah, it could be the opposite.
I haven't done anything but photography in 30 years.
That's it. I mean, I had so many hobbies as a kid, and then the minute I found the camera when I was 16, 15, the camera just took everything else and squeezed it into that was the only one I needed. It's really interesting because I was constantly collecting things, as I said earlier, and but no, I mean photography's it. Photography becomes this way of living and seeing and traveling. I'm a terrible traveler unless I'm on a job, because the access that I get from these jobs, from editorial jobs, or I did an ad job right before the year 2000 for AT&T. We were in an Italian village, doing a photograph of two people calling home on New Year's Eve, Millennial Eve.
Yeah.
And that was still one of the most extraordinary jobs, because we got 200 people in the town to come together and pretend it was New Year's Eve. We set off a whole party. And, it's one of those times where I just think, can't believe I'm doing this as a job, that I'm photographing, in an Italian village, faking New Year's Eve.
Wow.
So
nice.
Yeah.
Photography then.
That's it.
Basically, yeah.
Long answer.
What's your favorite film stock?
Tri-X. Yeah, Kodak Tri-X. But
Really?
across the way, I only use 400 speed film, because when I'm working quickly at a wedding, I don't want to have to differentiate between 160, 800, 400. I have color on the right and black and white on the left in my bag. All this stuff has to be reduced down to the level of thinking, of a frog. Like, I can't think when I'm at a wedding.
And out of interest, what's your color stock? What's your go-to color stock?
Portra 400.
Portra. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. John, I'm feeling peckish, and you're going to treat me to your favorite dish. What is it?
Good Lord.
Wow.
Well,
to see.
It's
this is the image you get stumped on.
Yeah.
The question that you get stumped on.
It's in between a pulled pork barbecue or my wife's Irish stew.
Well, I'll be looking forward to either of those, John, when we get a chance to meet up in person. Good answer.
What was the one image you'd wished you'd taken but missed?
Tricky ones.
No, there is one that's somewhere in my memory, but I think that I have I'm sort of like a golfer where I forget the shots I missed. And there is one somewhere deep inside me, but
So it's nothing substantial at a wedding that you
No, I mean,
missed that you
one of the things that's interesting is that there's a lot of pictures I miss, but my clients never know what it was. So I think
Agreed,
photographers get hung up on missing something or blowing a shot, but it's really whatever you deliver is what they get and what they see. So
So true.
I think my clients don't know what to expect, and they're happy with what I deliver when I deliver something true. But I'll have to think on that one.
But that's the thing with us photographers, isn't it? There's always another shot to be had somewhere, isn't there? It never ends, really. You can always find another shot.
Well, like
you can always analyze your own work to the end of time as well.
But it's like you guys were saying, how anxious you are to get back to shooting. It's the same sort of thing that I can't wait for the next wedding because it's that open field, it's open hunting season, it's opportunity. It's an extraordinary chance to make something that actually really matters. A lot of the editorial and ad job stuff get recycled the next month, but I still get Christmas cards from people whose weddings I shot 25 years ago because of that connection and because of the power. Or they'll say, "Oh, my uncle just died. Can you send me a print of that?" So there is something really substantial about that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's different meaning, isn't it?
Man. Yeah.
Well, I hope this one's not going to stump you either, John. I feel that some of my questions have been difficult in this quick fire round for you.
Seriously. Back in school.
It's the last one, don't worry. If you weren't a photographer, what would you be?
I have the most respect for writers because writing for me is something I'd love to be able to do, but it really is hard for me to get the words out just the way I want. I have high standards for that. So I have great respect for short story writers. But I also wish I had been in a choir. I loved singing as a kid, and I, never carved out time to sing in a choir. But I think that'd be quite great, right? Be in a Welsh choir or something.
Welsh choir.
I've been to weddings where there was a Welsh family. I mean, the singing was outrageous.
Oh yeah, I bet.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, they're crazy for it.
Those crazy Celts.
Yeah.
Well, John, I don't think we should miss lost opportunities. I think John should sing the new intro music for the show. We can fade that in when we put that live. Your fame and glory will come yet, John. Don't worry. Okay, John. Well, you'll be glad to know that is the end of your your 10 question rapid fire, not so rapid fire round. And
apparently the hard questions are now over for you. Yeah, I think that's normally the easy part, John.
Oh dear. Okay, John, let's get into the second part of this section. Let's not beat around the bush. Okay, we know weddings in general can be quite lucrative with the right client, of course. But when you get a celebrity wedding, when one comes through the door for a booking, do you happily, with a nice little smile on your face, rub your palms together? I mean, seriously though, we're not asking numbers or anything like that, but it does demand, obviously, something a bit more, obviously, in your pocket. But is there a difference for you between shooting a non-celebrity and a celebrity wedding, apart from the NDA things that you have to sign, of course?
Interesting. So are you asking financial difference or just a difference in general?
No, I think difference in general. I mean, I'm sure if anybody had a celebrity wedding come through the door, I think we'd all be rubbing our palms together with a bit of glee, wouldn't we? I'm sure. But that aside, is it different for you as a photographer to shoot a non-celebrity wedding compared to a celebrity wedding?
The honest answer is that I try to keep it all the same, because if I shift too much for the celebrity wedding and get too fancy, it's kind of killing it. But I mean, there's no doubt that the bump I get from a celebrity wedding is substantial. The bump from what other potential clients see, that so and so chose Dolan for this job, therefore it's this stamp of approval. There's no doubt that I got a bounce from Gwyneth's wedding that was really great. She's got a lot of admirers, and
Yeah.
so it's I by the same token, I think the best advice I can give to a photographer is to find your people, and whoever they are. I know that back in the old days, I used to kind of think of a segment of personality that I liked or that I was interested in. So one year I focused on getting art directors and creative directors and shooting their weddings because they're such great visual people. So, that's kind of my best advice to people is find one bride who's really dynamic and it's you connect with, and shoot all of her friends' weddings.
Nice. Nice.
Okay.
It is weddings are particularly word of mouth business. I've never advertised. It's you're not going to find somebody on the internet. If you're looking for somebody to shoot your wedding, you're more likely to call your friend, say, who was that nice person at your wedding?
True.
Give me your list.
Yeah.
It's true, man. Yeah, so true. Yeah, you're right. It's a special day like that, you're just going to have some complete utter stranger that you have no idea. Yeah, it's true.
Trust is a big thing.
Yeah. In this second part, we are going to get a little bit more into the business and tactical side of things. So can you actually talk us through a typical wedding day for you? I know there probably isn't a typical one, but are you up at dawn photographing the bride getting ready, all the way through to the dance at midnight, or are you only there for the main event? Like, what is it that you offer?
No, since I come out of the magazine world, I try to shoot the wedding as a whole story. So I love for the Friday night welcome party, rehearsal dinner, which is a big thing here in the States. It's a great time for people to get to know who I am and see me, and me to kind of gauge who are the key players. So I'll shoot a bit of the Friday night, and then Saturday, I don't start too early because I know it's a long day. I try to find out what time the bride's putting on the dress and work backwards an hour and a half from that. And then it's like strapping on. I imagine we're all on a river raft trip, and we start off getting on the boat all together and getting to know each other. And then we slowly go down the river together, and then you hit the rapids, and then it's just the reception is like going over the waterfall. All hell breaks loose. So nice. I
psychologists call that shared trauma. That.
That explains everything, Jake. Yeah, now exactly. I get it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Come and sit on the couch, John. Come and sit on the couch.
I mean, it is. If I run into somebody on the street in New York and I shot their wedding 20 years ago, there's a connection. And now I know it's shared trauma, but it's
what it is.
Or it's like we jumped out of a plane together or something, because I only saw them for that one day, but we're forever tied together.
Because it's a unique time period that is that cannot be repeated and is totally unique to that group of people.
Burned in people's
I used
memory.
to get it when we were mountaineering, and obviously you get it in the military and that sort of thing. But it's shared trauma, even with people that you really don't know. But it is like you have that bond. Yeah, it's crazy.
100%.
Well, I ran into somebody once at a store. I had my suit on. I was getting a sandwich before a wedding, and she looked at me and she said, "We know each other." She said, "Did I deliver your baby?" Oh, yeah. And I said, "No, I shot your wedding." She was a midwife. That's what I made this connection, that midwives and wedding photographers get let into people's lives for this tiny window, and you'll never forget it. But
you're lucky that line went that route, isn't it? Did I deliver your baby? It's like, I've never met you before in my life. It wasn't me. Now, John, we know in the photography world, passion is important to us as photographers, but we also know that we can't succeed on passion alone, because we've all got a business element to this game. How do we balance the two to make it successful, this passion and the business element?
I think it's an important question, because you can easily destroy the thing that has brought you where you've gotten to if you're not careful. So I see a lot of photographers who focus more on the marketing rather than the art, and they get out of balance where they're they're spending all their time trying to get work rather than create something that's desirable. So,
oh man, that's so true.
And it's easy. It's easy to get caught up in that. But I think it's to have the long career really takes some discipline and faith in yourself, and you have to keep the fires burning all the time, and you have to really dig into who you are as a photographer, and it gets back to that thing of not trying to please everybody. But it's not for the faint of heart. I think the freelance life has been portrayed as this lifestyle that everybody wants to be. And, there's the other unique thing about photography, which is it's really easy to get good and then really hard to get distinctive.
Yes.
So, how do you manage that?
And to be fair, in as times have gone forward, and this is going back to when we were talking to Tara Shannon, Jake, obviously he's, a model that's shot with some of the greatest photographers in the world, that we've seen before. But
I think it's a different era as well, and that's okay. I'm not saying that the industry as a whole has changed, but I do think that there is significant changes, and there are different pluses that we have now. I mean, I would argue that there are more ways to make money using your camera now than there ever has been. But so it's very easy to say, there's not the money in it that there was. I just think that the pie may even be even bigger. I just think there's a lot of very small slices. And how many of those little slices can you get, on your plate?
And sometimes we refer to the freelance being of like the good old days of when freelance used to be good.
Yeah.
That's the term I was trying to bring up just now.
Yeah, but that's. I remember when I moved to New York in the '80s, there was the lines that 10% of the photographers made 50% of the money, or maybe it was more than that. And I just remember somebody saying that to me, and I thought, what am I supposed to do with this? All I can do is photography. I'm going to make it work. But I just think it's important now to warn people that it's, it seems like this easy life, or this, I love photography, therefore I want to be a photographer. Well, I love to sing, but I'm not on the Rolling Stones records, So I often
some hard truths there, John.
I teach a fair bit, and there on occasion I found students where I just thought, and I've told them that maybe you want to keep this for yourself and not try to make a business out of it, because you might just destroy the art of it, or the joy you have in it, by bringing commerce into it. So it's a very tricky balance.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, especially in today's world, like you say, Jake, especially where the pie is so big now. Yeah.
So we've discussed what you do on the actual, day of the wedding and that sort of thing. What happens after that? After you've put the camera down, like what is your process once that big day is over? Are you just simply firing it all off to the lab and you're done, or what's your workflow?
So after the wedding, I'll send the film to the lab. I'll take care of the digital myself. I'll gather it all together. We make a contact sheet book in InDesign and have it printed out in enlarged images. And I'll make my edit of the top 100 and put that in the front of the book, and then everything else in the back of the book. And also, one of the things I've come up with over the years is I hand deliver my pictures to people, and I give them a box of prints, certain number of prints in a beautiful box. That's the first thing they see. So instead of me emailing them a link saying, here's your wedding pictures, and they're in line at the coffee shop going, oh, my wedding pictures just came in. Yay.
Yeah.
We actually get together, have a glass of wine. I unveil this box, and we kind of relive the day. So it's really, it's a lovely closing of the circle of, I met your family, now, you're in my house. And so I'm trying to take it away from being a vendor, being making it a commercial thing, and saying, this is a personal experience we're going through.
Keeping that
so
personal
do you
touch
go to them to do that, or do you try and get them to come to you? Or?
Either way. I mean, a lot of my clients are in New York, so we'll meet up, and or if I have to ship the pictures out, I will. And Last year I did a Zoom unveiling with somebody, which was really sweet. And,
Okay.
Nice.
So you're not actually doing a huge amount of post-pro on yours then? I mean, could you I mean, in terms of how much time you spend in there?
With film, there's not that much to do afterwards. We just kind of organize them and put them in a timeline. And
nice.
But the film is. I spent a lot of years as a black and white printer, so my exposures are pretty good for the most part, and I know light and I know how to do it. So I know how to make it as easy for myself as possible.
Nice.
ISO 400 is pretty.
It's forgiving. It's very forgiving.
Yeah. Do you ever push or pull your film at all if your weather changes?
I'll push plus a half.
Across
the board a lot, but not too much more than that.
Okay.
And do you generally use what is known in the film industry as box speed when you're shooting your film?
I'll overexpose, stop. But by the same token, I think one of the things that I do that might be different is I don't use a light meter. For the most part, I used to play a game on fashion shoots where my assistants would hold up a light meter and I'd have to guess what the light was. And if it was within a stop, I got $1. If I was off a stop, they got $1. So I learned how to judge light.
Nice.
I'd say,
interesting.
Wayne, you're at about 60 at 2.8, I'd say.
Nice. I'll take that. And the thing is, I mean, people who are in a digital world that haven't shot film don't realize that we do have a little bit more tolerance in that respect in film, in pushing a speed, overexposing a film, because for people that don't know, if you underexpose a film when you get that negative back, it's gonna look very thin, and there's not going to be much detail or information on that piece of film. It's going to be transparent,
which was a really difficult learning curve for me when I started digital, because I was overexposing everything,
killing it.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of film. Like, overexposing it, you almost can't overexpose it to the point of it going to white because of the emotion of it. So
I've tried.
But it is interesting when you talk to people who have only shot digital, and it is completely the opposite way of thinking. Yeah.
So moving on, something a bit different and a bit sort of current at the moment, today. How have you managed to adjust to the COVID pandemic within your work? I mean, have you managed to dodge your way through it? Have you found, how has it worked for you in these horrid times? I mean, obviously your laws are different than ours at the moment as well. So obviously each country's got its own restrictions.
Yeah, it's certainly been a challenge. I ended up shooting 6, maybe 7 small weddings last year. And they were the most fascinating jobs because of what people had to go through to get down the aisle. There was an intimacy and an honesty to those weddings, and it was such a charged atmosphere. I think without knowing it, we really are going through sort of wartime feelings for a lot of people. So there was really something special in the air. And when you're a photographer at a wedding with 15 people, you're part of the wedding. So there was a closeness and a really unforgettable kind of situations. And there was a lot of room to do different things. So I brought the 8x10 camera. I brought Super 8. There was just plenty of time to play around. So in some ways, there were some really powerful images made. Otherwise, I've done some personal projects and a lot of editing, working on a long-term project. So it's one of these things where I've always thought it would be nice to have 6 months off to kind of sort through some stuff, and I've had that.
So, obviously you shot a lot less, though, right?
I shot a lot less. Certainly, the commercial jobs disappeared. I did, one small brand shoot up with my wife as a subject and with a friend, and but somehow we've made it through. We stayed lean, and and we live up in the country and isolated. So, we're I've tried to also share my experiences of going through multiple recessions in New York, and post 9/11 was a big one, and then 2008, and so we learned a little bit of these how to tighten up and keep things lean, and I've been traveling for 30 years, so this is the first year that I've been grounded and spent this much time with my family and all. That's been an upside, but my wife's from Ireland, so this is the first year she hasn't gone home in 30 years too. So
wow, geez, okay,
yeah, it's a big hit, isn't it?
Yep,
that's a big
the travel
hit.
thing has been just absolutely. Getting back to the way that you actually shoot a little bit, then my original question was, I actually thought that you shot quite a lot of digital, but I'm guessing that you don't. Do you shoot any digital, or is it all analog? Or
no, it's a mixture, and it's certainly for the commercial jobs, I'll shoot digital. For the weddings, I'm still 70% film, and then it's almost like in the worse the light is, the better digital is. So, if I'm going inside in a church or something, the digital's great, and then coming out in the sunshine, I'll go film, and back and forth like that. And then the late night stuff with digital is fantastic. So it's an instinctive process which camera I grab. It's like, okay, who's calling out to me? Who wants to be used right now?
Got it. Well, what is it about film then that speaks to you? Like, I mean, if you've got the kit already for digital, it's not about the process or anything like that. You've already got the kit. You can just as easily just use digital. But what is it that about the analog film style of things that speaks to you? You're like, yeah, I got to shoot this on film.
I mean, beyond this, just the skin tones are so gorgeous on film, and the subtlety of something happens when that light hits that plane of gelatin. That there's that little bit of depth in film that captures something special. But it's also how that camera makes people feel. So when I'm shooting with a waist level camera, I'm not assaulting people with a long lens in their face. It's a much more subtle play. And I think there's also something that happens to me when I'm looking down as opposed to forward. The camera is kind of backwards, and it's not upside down, but it's when you go left, it goes right. And it in a good way, it messes you up and loosens your cognitive abilities. And so, there's a lot of faith involved, and a lot of instinct and intuition. And when you get something great on film, it's such a triumph. So
yeah.
That's what I was brought up on.
Yeah. Is there something about that angle, i.e. the waist level shot, that you prefer over the eye level shot then?
Certainly with kids. If you look at snapshots from the 50s and 60s, the parents were at the kids' eye level, as opposed to, then the 90s, everybody's looking down on their child and stuff. So, but I think there's something just subtly pleasing about that little bit lower angle, and the square is quite beautiful, as we know from Instagram. And I mean, I think you find your equipment, and then you wrap yourself around it, the way you wrapped yourself around the router there. But I think once I found the Rolleiflex, and I found that I could shoot fast, shoot kind of effortlessly, and reload the film quickly. It's like, oh, that's all I need to make my magic. But I don't want everybody going out and buying all the used Rolleis that are out there. So
right, hating the lenses, hating the 2.8s.
Yeah. Well, also, you can buy them, and then I heard somebody talking how they had to put in $2,000 worth of repairs into them, so they're a little tricky to.
Ouch. Yeah.
But it is something about the emotion that speaks to you then. I suppose my point here is that just imagine in a perfect world that we could swap out your Rolleiflex film for a CCD or something like that. You still wouldn't do it, right? And it's not just the lens and the way that you shoot.
I've tried to figure out what's the difference between digital and film, but maybe the closest thing is if you go to a shop and you get your porridge in the morning and they put it in the microwave, or they cook it all night on the aga. How about that? Does that work?
Wow.
That
Wow.
works.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
There's something different.
Yeah.
You don't know what it is, but there's a thinness or a tinniness or,
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it's the
Or
practical
depth.
thing is if I shoot on digital, I might have to do a ton of work to make it look like film, or I could shoot on film.
Sure. Absolutely.
Good point.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah.
I think it's great. You're still shooting so much film. I think it's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Especially in this modern world we live in now.
And I didn't mean to labor the point there. I suppose it's just something that fascinates me, with music as well. People listen to LP and records, over.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, but why though? And they'll say something along the lines of, it just gives you that warmth. That doesn't make any sense. You can't. It's a sound. You can't have a warm sound. It's like there is something,
There is. Yeah.
etheric about it that you can't really put your finger on. Yeah,
It's definitely more organic, I think. Organic is quite a nice word. Organic to the human eye, anyway.
Yeah.
Because our human eye doesn't see things as sharp as digital cameras show us. Most definitely. I see some digital camera files coming out, and it's like, holy crap, that is so sharp.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I can't even see that in real life with my glasses.
Right. Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't think we're meant to
yeah.
see things so perfectly, and I think you get a glimpse of somebody out of the corner of your eye, and that's really what I can get with film.
Yeah.
But I do think the perception is changing, though. Because we're being bombarded at it from all angles. You've got to get the 8K TV. We're being advertised to that quality is better. That's what it equals.
Yeah.
So it is kind of interesting to see how we're being trained, and whether these young children that the weddings that you've got, these 12-year-olds, they're asking for how big can I blow this up or zoom in on this, and can you swap my head out and change this smile and all that shit. It's that's not what this is about.
Yeah.
Well,
It's a world.
I think some of the new TVs are unpleasantly sharp. We have one that's 10 years old that's so sweet, and it's just maybe for sports it's nice to have a sharp TV, but
sure. I don't need the serial killer in my room with me.
Exactly.
Thanks. It's pretty common now to book a wedding package. Do you do different packages, or is it just like you book me for the day and you get what you get?
Yeah, I've always tried to make it really simple. That I'm the easiest thing on the list. Tell me where to be and when. I'll shoot till I feel like everybody is sick of me. So usually sometime at midnight, the ties come off the guys and the sweaty backs, and there's usually a time when it's clear for me to kind of bow out gracefully.
Get out.
Yeah.
We don't ever want any records of this.
Exactly. But that goes back to the editorial storytelling when I know in my gut that I've got it. So
yeah,
it's time.
So why don't you offer packages then? Do you feel that's just not right for you, or it's not right for the client to have a package, or
I don't even know what the packages are. You mean like including or
so you're right. So maybe
or?
It would be you're just there for the main event. Maybe you're there for the whole day, and then other times it would be you get a framed image, or you get 50 images on a disc, or you get 100 prints, or do you know what I mean? So there's different packages.
Yeah,
and I think it's from a psychological point of view, it's easier to sell. A lot of wedding shooters go, my most popular package is the silver package, because psychologically people don't want the bottom one and they don't want to afford the top one. So psychologically everybody goes for the silver.
Yeah.
So, but you don't do anything like that.
No, I do it. I'll charge a wedding day rate, and then I'll charge, if there's other events, I'll tack on different rates for those events. But I'm really trying to see it as a complete story, but I do give people a drive with all the images on it. So I'm not. I'm not trying to make
dime them.
No,
yeah.
I'm trying to say if somebody pays my day rate, which is plenty of money, and they have faith in me, then I'm not going to nickel and dime them on stuff. It's
interesting.
It's a different kind of relationship, and it's there's lots of talk about the luxury client and that sort of thing, but I get really interesting people who see what I do, they're not looking for the typical wedding photographer. So if I came in with a package, that would kind of spoil the fun, you know. It
definitely takes away that sort of like that family friend to business associate is immediately put in there. You're right. Yeah.
Or you may not even get booked
Yeah.
coming to that. If they start seeing packages land on there.
Yeah.
Land on the plate.
Yeah.
So, John, coming to the close of the show now with this one, where do you see yourself going in the near future with your work? I mean, let's say the pandemic's out of the way. Let's say that's all behind us now and things are opening back up and the sun is shining bright for everybody in terms of work. Because our industry in all aspects, even without a pandemic, is certainly changing for all of us in the way the photography is being taken on board. Have you got a master plan to keep you both creative and keep your business side of things savvy?
Well, I've made it this long without a plan, so I feel a little late for that.
Wow. Okay.
I love this final bit of
after,
advice.
John, try again.
I love this final bit of advice. The biggest plan I can give you is to have no plan.
So, you know, I think I have taken this different path, which is put it out to the universe that this is who I am, and I need 10 weddings a year. So there's 2 million weddings in the U.S. per year. It shouldn't be that hard to find 10, 28-year-old, 30-year-old people who appreciate photography and want something low key, and maybe they're a bit shyer. They're a bit, you know, I really know who my client is. So I'm trying to find those 10 people. And I think it's such a not normal American way to do a business. You know, most the Starbucks thing is just, we have this comedy magazine called The Onion, and they do fake stories. But one of their best stories was that Starbucks is opening up a new Starbucks in the bathroom of Starbucks. Like, there's so many Starbucks in America.
Brilliant. That's brilliant. Yeah,
so my business model has always been this thing of being clear who I am and finding my people.
Nice.
So if I can keep finding 10 people a year, then the other work, the ad work, and I'm certainly worried about how I'm going to do the ad work since it's mostly in person, and that's going to be a little slower coming back. Weddings are an unstoppable beast. You know, people, they just are going to find a way to get married.
Well, I think that's good advice. So you've heard it. Just shortening John's last answer. Biggest plan to have going forward is no plan. There we go. Summarized.
Nailed it. I mean, I'll be honest, John. That is a weight off my shoulders. I was a bit anxious coming into 2021, but you know what? Now I think I'll be fine.
We've been planning for the last 9 months, John. That's just thrown all that hard work straight out the window.
I mean, all my 2020 plans went out the door on March 17th. So I think we all have acquired a new skill of seeing what the universe gives us, and but I think diversification is really a smart thing that people have always talked about in the stock market. And I think people have learned that in the freelance market, that you've got to find other ways and be nimble and be clever. And
absolutely.
But you better have a voice, and you better have, to be honest, the other part of the answer is that I have done more teaching, and I really enjoy that, of finding photographers at this plateau where they've gotten good and they're stuck or they're burned out or something, and trying to sprinkle some wisdom or shake them up or push them in different directions.
Good words. I think it's going to make a lot of people think as well that are they working too hard on the wrong things, perhaps?
Right.
Not concentrating on the right things. No, it's good advice, I think, there. Okay, John, before we round off the show, we just got one final question, which goes to all our guests. Here is the time where we personally ask you to recommend 2 creatives, and they can be from either the photographic or video world, and anyone within those realms all the way through the ladder of success, to come on to Podlomania as a guest. And we ask you to get in touch with them, so and do an e-intro to us, and we'll happily book them in and get them on.
Oh, I've got some good ones for you.
We got to
Okay.
get that person that you work with to dish the dirt. I
Oh,
think we really need.
Yeah,
that's what we really
I
need.
think.
Shall I name them for you?
If you've got them to hand, yeah, please share them. If you need time to think of them, we completely understand. Anything you commit to the show, we'll hold you to it. Just let you know.
Absolutely. Huh.
You know, there's a great photographer in the north of England. Do you guys know Jim Marsden?
No.
I'm
I
going to
know
get
him.
you.
I'm aware of his name, I think. Yeah.
I'm going to get you
Okay.
Jim Marsden. He's I've just become friends with him on calls and stuff with another photographer.
Cool.
But I think he would be fantastic for you guys. But also, I will give you this photographer. She's from LA. Her name is
Okay.
Erin Perlman, and she's she's a stand-up comedian and a photographer who photographs people in bed in the morning. So as they're waking up, she's there. She'll be great for you.
What?
Well, that
to be
wouldn't
fair,
frighten.
yeah, that sounds pretty unique. I'm definitely down.
That
for
sounds unique. Like it wouldn't frighten the shit out of you waking up and seeing someone in your room with a camera in your face.
Oh no, I'm sorry. She does have their permission.
Oh, right, okay.
At one point in the next year, I will be at the foot of your bed when you wake
Yeah.
up.
I'm not going to tell you when,
Leave
so
the
be
key
aware.
under the mat.
Yeah. Jesus.
No, they sound great,
That sounds
John. They sound
interesting, yeah,
great.
that
Yeah,
sounds
don't definitely do any intro to those. We'd love to have them on. And if you want an extra bonus and add in your studio manager, then we'll take that too. Okay, John, before we go, just let our audience know where they can find you on your line and your webs and your Instagram handles and where you'd like people to go and see your work.
Just johndolan.com. I do have a blog that has some of my essays and thoughts, which is blog.johndolan.com, and Instagram at johndolanphotog.
I could definitely
Brilliant.
recommend the blog. Yeah, I was reading it
Yeah.
the other night. You got some interesting, thoughts and stories in there for sure. Yeah, definitely worth a look.
Oh, thanks, Jake.
And that information will be in the show notes anyway, so people can always click on those links in the show notes, John. So we'll put them in there for you so people can go direct to them without having to look around.
On that note, it's crazy those pandemic weddings, if you like. It seems so eerie. Like those wedding shots you've got of just like a handful of people just seems so weird, man.
Yeah. We
Yeah.
definitely had to rethink the whole thing. But each one of those brides at the end of the wedding said, what were we thinking about having a big wedding? This is all. This is all we wanted.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was quite powerful that we've all adjusted to this new reality, and that's their wedding. So,
Especially when you say
True,
like there's only 10
true.
people in the entire event and you're like 10% of that. It's like there's no
That's
hiding.
nuts.
There's no hiding back. Like
No.
you have to be a part of the
It's
day.
nuts.
Yeah.
exactly.
Wow.
Okay, Jake, any more questions from you before
No,
we
that's
before we
been
round
excellent.
off the show?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, folks, if you'd like to help us support and produce and record even more great interviews with some of the world's greatest creative talents, your support and donations are very much appreciated. And for those that don't know, you can find our donate button on our website at podlemania.com/donate. Even if it's a cup of coffee, we appreciate it. And remember, if you like this episode and don't want to miss out on new episodes, then please make sure you subscribe to us on your chosen podcast player. We're on over 36 of them, just for your information. And you can, of course, subscribe to the podcast at www.podlemania.com/subscribe. And please remember, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, iTunes Store, Stitcher, Spotify, Podbean, Podlemania, and many, many more in over 36 countries. And if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, please give us a like and don't forget to leave a comment and to share because it does help us in our rankings. So apart from that, folks, that's all from us on the technical side. We would just like to give out our thanks and appreciation for John for joining us and giving us a beautiful insight into his world, how his mind works, and why he still shoots so much gorgeous film.
Thank you, John. Yeah, appreciate
thanks,
it, buddy.
guys. You
Thank
guys are fabulous.
John, thanks ever so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
It's great.
Take care. Stay safe.
Thank you.